It tells you that there is another version of yourself waiting on the other side, a version of you that is more confident, more worthy, more complete, a version of you that no longer overthinks, no longer gets scared, no longer needs reassurance. So you spend your entire life trying to become her, trying to fix yourself, trying to earn your way to peace. But what if the person that you've been searching for was never someone you needed to become, but rather someone you needed to come home to? Today, we're asking ourselves, what is healing really?
Everything we do is fueled by our desire to learn and grow because we believe that what we seek is also seeking us. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to What We Seek. Yasmin, thank you for the beautiful intro.
Thank you.
We're swapped sides today.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a little bit nervous. I was running super late, guys, so we only have 30 minutes today for the episode.
Yeah.
Are you excited to talk about healing?
Yeah, let's dive right into it.
So before we dive right into it, I feel like I want to preface this by saying this episode has been such a mental challenge for me to get into.
Yeah, she took like 3 weeks to do her research.
Not even 3 weeks. It's like my body just kept putting it off because in my head, I kept trying to think of it as something that I wanted to present perfectly. Coming out here telling people the science, the psychology, a little bit of the soul behind healing. And then I sat with myself and I asked myself, but wait, like, what is healing actually to you?
Mhm.
And I feel like as someone who I myself don't feel like I'm in a place where I'm healed fully, it felt a little bit difficult for me to come out here and tell people this is what healing is. Because it almost is like, well, do I really know what it is?
I feel like I've healed, and I said this yesterday, healing is a person I meet every day.
Yeah.
So it's like a journey. Like it's like I'm looking forward every day to meet that version of me that's healing. And I'm okay with the ing at the end.
That's so well said. Because I think so many people, when they think of the word healing, they think of it as a finite destination, you know?
A spot to meet at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think so many people also use the word healing synonymously with the word cured. So you think that if you're healed, the things that hurt you no longer hurt. But in fact, they do hurt you. You just know how to show up for yourself better.
Even if you scar, there will always be a place that reminds you of that scar. So even if your skin, like you get like a rash or anything, even if it's healed, like sometimes skin goes on top of it, it's never the same.
Yeah.
There's discoloration, you get acne, same thing. And I feel like it just becomes a part of who you are. It's not something that just goes away forever.
Yeah.
It shapes you.
100%. I think, okay, so I was sitting on it a lot and I wanted to come up with like a sentence that I think encapsulates what healing is to me.
Okay.
So healing is becoming healing isn't becoming a version of yourself that no longer hurts. It's becoming the version of yourself that knows how to take care of yourself when it does hurt. So it's like you said, the wounds that are on your skin, they're there. They still have that mark, but you know how to tend to them better. So the things that hurt you may still hurt, but you're able to show up for yourself.
So instead of associating the word cure with healing, we should have healing and immunity
Yes.
become best friends instead.
Yeah, because it's like you're building the antibodies.
Yeah.
And I also think it's interesting because you know how, for example, if I don't wash my hair every day, my hair will get oily.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't think of healing in that way. We don't think of it as a process. We think of it as a destination. Like I think with anything in life, the key to it is consistency, right? So if you want to heal from something, you have to show up for yourself every day and actively confront that thing. And I think so many of us run away from the things that we're trying to heal from. And we think we're healing them, but we're actually avoiding them.
I feel like the one example I always give for healing is that think of healing as like just a normal scar. Like think of it, imagine you have a scar and you got a cut. You have to first disinfect it. First of all, a lot of times when you're going through something, you are so hot-headed in the moment, you don't even realize that there's a scar in your body. Sometimes, when you get hurt, you have to like take a second and be like, what is that thing that's burning? And then you look and you're like, oh my God, something cut me. And then you realize it. So first thing is awareness over the fact that you've been cut. And then you have to start treating the cut. A lot of people don't even have the initial step because they never cool down enough to look at the fact that they've been scarred.
Very true.
And then you need to disinfect it layer by layer, wrap it, revisit the scar, look at it again. And sometimes you have to dig up old wounds and disinfect and wrap it again. Sometimes the bandage might get like stuck to the skin and you have to kind of separate them and you can't tell what is the scar, what is the skin, and it's all so meshed together. Think of it as like literal scarring, you know? And then I just feel like that takes so much time, and that's why it's a place I meet. It's someone that I meet every day because I have to check up on it all the time to just make sure that I'm still okay.
Very, very well said. And I think you pointed on something that I also wanted to talk about, which I have nothing to add there because I feel like that's really hits the nail on the head. It's a continuous process. And even what you said at the beginning of healing, I'm okay with the ing. That's really powerful because like we said, like people think of it as a destination. But I also think one thing it's one of my favorite quotes is that awareness opens the door and healing walks out of it. So it's knowing that, when you are afraid of something, you need to know, first of all, what your triggers are, what the wound actually is. You need to look at it and say, oh my gosh, like you said, I actually have a cut that's so deep and it's bleeding and I didn't even notice. But knowing that it's bleeding doesn't always mean you know how to take care of it. And I think that's the part that people miss often. It's like, okay, my arm is bleeding. What do I do?
I feel like the first initial step to anything in life is to be a seeker, to be conscious enough. And that's why our entire podcast is called What We Seek, because when you're a seeker, you're actively looking at any content or information that's going to bring that awareness to better yourself. And that could be literally anything. And I feel like with healing, the first step, the first initial step is being aware of the fact that you've been cut. And that opens an entire door, many doors. In fact, I tell people that I have not dated for 10 years and people go like, 10 years, that's so long. And I explain to them, I'm like, yeah, initially I didn't even think that it's gonna be 10 years. I wanted to get back out there, and I saw that I had, for me, it was the fact that my initial healing journey started with the fact that I really wanted to fall in love again, and I just knew that I was toxic. And I was like, okay, things have been done to me that were very toxic, and I want to end that cycle. So, how can I make sure that I don't repeat this situation again? It started with one thing. I went to therapy for my love life, and one thing led to another, 10 years of getting to know myself better. And then, even the other day, I called her. I called Donna 3 days ago, and I was like, Donna, I think I did something that brought back an old wound that I hope is coming back for the last time because I threw it back up again. It's almost like a volcano. It might be damn and like there's nothing happening, but you never know where it's gonna erupt. What's gonna cause that trigger in you, you know? And it's just like, not only are we healing ourselves and things that have been made or decisions that have been made and things that happen to us, but also a lot of us are healing generations of trauma.
Very true.
And it's a very big responsibility. So you have to be okay with the ing. You have to befriend the ing.
Yeah.
And,
No, but I think it's really powerful. And I also think it's
you look so beautiful.
I was thinking that about you too. You look stunning today. I feel like I need to calm down for a second because I feel like one thing I'm trying to heal from is my perfectionism. And right now, even as you're speaking, I can see myself trying to think like, what am I going to respond to? What am I going to say? How am I going to sound smart? So I want to just breathe for a second so I can respond to you properly. But I feel like you are someone that I've always admired because I feel like you're a very introspective person. You take the things that have happened to you, and instead of saying, oh my gosh, why did this happen to me? Why am I the only one who goes through this? Why did all of these bad things happen to me? You look at it from a zoomed out picture and you say, these things happened to me. How can I grow from them? And I think to me, that's the most powerful type of person there is because you're not letting the things that happen to you hurt you or hold you back. You're using them to propel you and push you forward. So you're saying all of these things in my life, a lot of them have gone wrong. But instead of looking at what's wrong, you say, okay, what's right? How can I turn this negative situation into something that actually turns me into the person I want to become? And I think to me, that's really powerful. And I think something that I admire in you a lot is also that I think it's something you work on, but I think if I look at you like as an outside person, you trust yourself. And to me, one of the biggest components of truly becoming a healed person or a being on your healing journey is learning how to trust yourself. I feel like it is the foundation of everything in life. If I had to say what healing is in one word, it's trust, not trust in other people, not trust in the world, not trust in life itself, but the trusting yourself to show up for yourself every day. And that's something you do every day. And I admire that.
I feel like for me, one of the reasons that the way that I looked at, I didn't even know healing was like, when I started healing when I was 12, like I started looking at things and I was like, I don't like the way things are happening. And back then, healing wasn't like something that was popular that people talked about. I feel like the reason why I even started my healing journey when it was not popular was because I don't like suffering.
Mm.
I think suffering is so pointless because life is just happening to you. And what do you mean I'm going through all of this stuff and it doesn't have any positive thing? Then
Yeah.
I'm just suffering for no reason. If I'm working towards something and I have discipline and it's difficult, I can be okay with that because it's gonna get me somewhere. It's gonna be fruitful in the end of the day. But if you're just suffering,
Yeah.
you get nowhere. And I don't want to be left with nothing. If it's happening to me, then what's the lesson?
Yeah.
Let's make this into lemon juice instead of just having
Yeah.
lemons,
I always like to say life is not happening to you, it's happening through you. So you get to decide what you do with the circumstances that come your way, no matter how difficult they are. And I also think people always they want to generalize and they conceive things, I think, just based on the surface. For example, if someone sees you, they don't understand the depth of what you've been through in your life and to get to where you are today. And I think there's a lot of bias that comes with looking a certain way, presenting yourself a certain way, having a certain type of energy. People assume that you haven't necessarily been through things in your life. That's something I've experienced too. And I think everyone experiences trauma differently, but it doesn't make the things you went through any less painful. And that's something I wanted to touch on. Another thing I wanted to say is anything that hurts is something you should go towards. And I think people, when something hurts, your instinct is to recoil and it's to push back. But actually, the things that hurt you are your greatest tools for growth. There's this lesson that actually comes from nature. So, a wild buffalo will go towards a storm. It's one of the only animals that doesn't run away from a storm. It goes towards it because it knows that the only way out is through. And that's a very cliche quote that's like used in healing.
Oh, I love that.
But it's, yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Also, it's like when you said that, I picture Khaleesi, like instead of being burnt by the fire, sit in it and come out with some eggs and dragons.
Yeah. Literally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so true. It's like what you do with it. Like fire can either burn you or it can give us everything we know today. Like if you think of cavemen, like if you put your hand in the fire, yeah, it will burn. But then you can also use it to cook.
I
You can use it
love
as a
burning.
tool.
I love burning
Yeah.
down things that don't work for you. I like burning down mindsets that no longer serve me. I like burning any traditional or cultural norms that were passed down to me that have no service in my life at all. Like fire is a huge element for me. I love burning. Maybe it's because I'm a Leo and we're a fire element, but I love burning. Like the idea of burning things down. And there's this Rumi poem about how he talks to God and he's like, I want to burn down everything that's not you, that's within me. Because if it's not in resonance with you, I don't want it. And I feel like things that are good are, because when I say the word God, I don't mean it religiously, but everything that's in resonance with love and light, I want to keep that. And anything that's not in resonance with that, I want it to burn to the ground. And like, I'm okay with being a phoenix and rising from the ashes over and over again because I have the ability to do that. Like I have enough strength to see that in myself. And I've let go of friend groups, people, family members, anyone who doesn't suit my peace of mind or anything that's in resonance with love and light and everything I consider to be God, I want to get rid of. It could be blood, it could be tradition, it could be anything. I have no ties and I love that detachment. And I feel like in the earlier episodes when I talked about detachment, a lot of people don't still understand what I mean by it. And that's a a tool. Detachment is a tool to healing. If you want to like think of it as a toolbox, healing is the box, and one of the tools you can use is detachment.
Okay, I feel like I have a few questions for you based
Okay.
off of that. But
I'm just winging it. You have more things to actually
no, I
talk about.
actually don't. You know, I even so I feel like I've been researching this podcast episode for 3 months to a point where even now before doing this, the only thing I prepped was the intro. And then I kind of read a little bit. I had a notes folder, a running notes folder where anytime I watched a video, anytime I saw anything, I would write it down and I'd put it there and I just read through that. But I don't have actually anything I wanted to say because initially I wanted to talk about the limbic system in this episode. But I think we really covered that in depth in the episode that we did, What is Fear? I explained the limbic system. It's a smoke alarm system. It detects threat and your brain is always scanning for danger, right? So we talked about that a lot. And I think the nervous system is a huge component of healing, nervous system regulation, but we can get into that in a separate episode, I think. So I think for today, we're just going to talk about what it is. And maybe next episode, we can say, okay, how do you actually heal? But to touch on the things you were saying, last night we had a really beautiful conversation and we had given the metaphor of the sun, how you're like a sun, and I think we both are suns and we were both Leos. So it's the perfect metaphor. But if you think of the sun is massive. It attracts everything to it. All the planets are heading towards the sun. But if you think of the sun, it's fire. So it burns everything that could even potentially hurt it. And when people think of the word burning or fire, they think of destruction and they think of it in a negative sense. So how do you explain burning things down? And what does it actually mean to burn something? And how do you burn something in a way that doesn't destroy?
I'm okay with destruction too. I think that's the part of it.
Yeah.
Like, for example, let's say I'm in a relationship that's no longer serving me. It has to be destroyed.
Beautiful.
It has to be burned down. It's a cycle of life, and it's in my evolution path to expand and become bigger. And in order for me to shine my light on so many planets and give life, there is things that are flying towards me like asteroids that have to be burned down. So in order for there to be even more life, there has to be destruction. Things have to end for other things to begin. And I think I'm okay with the yin and the yang aspect of burning. It's like I like the heal part and I like the ing part, because otherwise I would be bored. There has to be a continuation. If I'm just at peace all the time, why did I even choose to be born? I was already a soul with God and I was having a olly jolly time. Why did I come here to experience things, to go through it, to learn, to expand, and then find how to become immune to it? I think immunity is the main goal for me, because you can't have control over the things that are happening. There are cycles everywhere, beginning and ending every day. I read this book that was talking about the fact that he began the chapter in this book by saying that we're made up of cells. And every cell in our body is regenerating every day, to the point that you right now, a year from now, you will not have the same cells in your body that you did have last year, because they died and they were regenerated. So if the cells in your body are dying and you're constantly growing, why is it that your mindset is staying the same towards everything? And when you think about the cells constantly regenerating, seasons changing, the universe, the sun and the planets and day and night are shifting, and you are constantly trying to stay the same person, you are not in resonance with the flow of life. And you need to be okay with the fact that it's almost like a wave of things. The ing is the wave. You're a drop of water, and you need to be okay with the fact that there's going to be waves crashing in all directions. And you just have to maintain the one drop of water that was given to you. And that's why healing to me is more spiritual. There is physical techniques that you can use, and I feel like I want to get into this in another episode where I can kind of talk about like maybe tools that people can use, because I feel like the three main things always have to go together. You know how I have a triangle? The physical, the mental, and the spiritual have to work in hand to hand to make something actually blossom. So there is techniques with healing that are physical, and then we have emotional, like the mind, to work on. So there's mindsets, things that you can practice, but then also there is a spiritual aspect. And I feel like if you have control over your body, that's 10%. If you have control over your mind and body, that's 50%. But when you have control over your spirit, that's 100% of your life being in your hands. No longer is life happening to you, life is happening through you. You become a creator amongst other creators. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that was very beautifully said.
Thanks.
100%. So, one of, again, another quote that I really love is, you are not a body with a soul. Your soul has a body, right? So, your soul has to be in resonance with everything around you, but it is encapsulated in this physical body. And the physical body has so many different beautiful tools that you can use to unlock it. So anything that's hurting you, there are ways you can self-soothe, there are ways that you can manage, there are ways that you can cope. But as we were saying, the only way to do that is by going towards the things that have scared you, the things that have caused you pain, and the things that have hurt you, instead of running away from them. And I think so many of us are accustomed to running away. Now, in the conversation between, your soul, your mind, and your body, there comes this discussion of, like we were saying earlier, the limbic system. One thing that I think is really interesting is your mind is like a giant prediction machine. So if you've been through any negative experience, it's going to constantly look at your environment, scan for danger, and try to detect any potential threats. And in that, it tries to keep you resistant to change. Change is the only constant we have, but our brain and our bodies hate change because change makes us uncomfortable. If I have to go to the gym and lift weights, I'm going to be sore for around a week and I'm going to be in pain. And your brain doesn't like pain. Your brain is very hedonistic. It constantly seeks pleasure. So I think that's something that we need to learn how to contrast as human beings. I remember a few weeks ago, I saw this video. I can't remember the creator's name. I will put it if I do. But I feel like this video really changed my perception on a lot of things. She was saying that your brain is hedonistic, it constantly seeks pleasure. So, one of the ways that you can hack your brain is to give it consequences. Anytime your brain doesn't want to listen to you, instead of going in towards that pleasure and that hedonism or running away from the things that hurt you, you have to go towards them. So, for example, if I want to set a goal for myself and actually achieve something that I'm setting my mind to, whether that's healing or a new goal or a new skill, and then my brain goes like, but why should you do that? You can't do that. She said, you should do it and then give your brain a consequence. So, for example, if I don't want to go to the gym, then I have to go to the gym and then I have to spend 30 extra minutes in the gym. So it's like you're giving yourself a way to combat the thing that you're trying to run away from. You have to give your brain consequences to kind of keep it in check. And it's interesting because she basically was saying you have to kind of punish yourself. But in the context of healing, I think this is something that's interesting because I've personally never tried applying it, because I think what I've done on my own healing journey is I've turned self-love almost into self-abandonment, in that I'm always someone that says, give yourself grace. But I have been over the past year and a half, I think I've given myself so much grace that I've stopped moving towards the things I even wanted to achieve in the first place. And I think there's a fine line between being kind to yourself and abandoning yourself.
But I also don't think you've given yourself any grace.
Really?
Yeah. You think you've given yourself grace, you actually don't. Just the fact that you say you're a perfectionist, there's no grace in that.
Very true. So how would you, okay, for example, my perfectionism is one of my biggest ailments because it makes me a giant procrastinator. I will put everything off because I'm so focused on making it perfect that if it's not perfect, I don't want to do it. Even this episode, I was so fixated on saying the right thing and like having that perfect little sound bite or perfect little clip where I say something that sounds really smart, that I felt like I had to research for a month in advance. And then I kept putting it off because I was like, no, what if it doesn't turn out the way that I want? And then here we are now, and I didn't even research anything.
By the way, we have like 10 minutes to finish up.
It's okay.
But I feel like with your perfectionism, for you personally, it goes back to the way you were raised. And you told me that when you were growing up, like your mom always thought of you as a doll and you were like the only
Yeah.
girl. So I feel like that idea of being a doll and just being perfect is something that goes back to your childhood. So one of the things I like to call that is that you have to unmake the wiring that was already done to you.
Yeah.
That's not something that now, like, you realize the precautions that it's having on other aspects of your life, one of them being procrastination. But that's not the main cause of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that you were raised to think that you're this doll and you have to just be perfect all the time.
100% agree. But it's interesting because it's like, I can be consciously aware of the fact that, okay, I'm trying to break out of my perfectionism. I'm trying not to be a perfectionist. But the only way to really break free from those things is by doing them. It's by action. Because the only way, even if you're talking about nervous system regulation, the only way to show your nervous system that it's safe is by giving it a new reality. It can't just exist in your head. Awareness alone is never enough to change. And so for me, I know that I'm a perfectionist. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going to work on it. But what do? I don't push myself to do anything that makes me uncomfortable out of my perfectionist zone, which is why even today I was like, you know what? I'm going to come on the podcast. I'm not going to be fully prepared and I'm going to record it anyways, because now I'm showing my nervous system, you know what? You didn't prepare. And look, we're fine. We're having a conversation. It's going well. And with time, this is going to turn into safety. But it's so hard to take that initial step.
But I told you that, and I feel like you're also selectively a perfectionist.
Yeah.
You choose and pick when you want to be a perfectionist. And I feel like that doesn't make you a perfectionist.
In what sense?
Like you care about physical perfection,
Mm.
but not actually becoming that. And that's why healing is a spiritual thing for me more so. Because when you're spiritually healed or healing, you are just at peace with whatever there is physically. Your perfectionism comes from a physical place where the outside has to be a perfect match to your aesthetic, but really on the inside, you don't feel the same way. And I try to practice it the opposite way. So, I keep saying like we're fine. I'm sure we have enough of things to say. I try to practice being spiritually perfect. And that's why, like I told you, like healing to me is spiritual, and I have to talk about the spirit or the way that I look at. I feel like both have to go hand in hand. I feel like with our friendship, like a lot of things that you lack, I bring to the table, and it's vice versa.
Yeah.
And we're kind of like opposite ends of the spectrum, but almost like a reflection of one another. We're both tackling the same ideologies, but from different perspectives, and I love that.
Yeah, it's very true, because I think we are so similar and yet so different.
Yeah.
But it's weird because even, for example, yesterday when we were out and you were saying, I think yesterday you had told me you felt anxious, and I was like, me too. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed today. It's like there's that energetic connection where we feel the same things.
Yeah. We're a soul family. I always told you that. You're one of my aunts, and I feel like we go through the same things in life, but in different situations. And even if we're miles apart, the same things are happening to us. Like we're on the same soul journey almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very well said. Okay, so I think because we don't have a long, I think we have maybe 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
What we could probably do is leave this here. And I mean, obviously we can talk in the next 5 minutes, but what I wanted to say is I think this episode is nice because it gives us a really nice intro. What do you want to do in the next episode? Do you want to dive into practices? Because I want to hear more from me, I want you to explain to everyone kind of the spiritual layers that you, for example, now you're talking about the soul of healing. What is that and how do we get
Because
there?
look, yesterday you gave me an example and you were like, it's a snowball effect, right? You have to accumulate enough light, and you gave me this example of a snowball, and you're like, once it's snowballing, you want to accumulate as much light as you want. And I told you, I was like, I don't like that example for light. I like it for healing though. Because when we are born, it's a snowball. We're a small snowball of just white snow. And then we go down this roller coaster where we're snowballing and we're picking up everything in the environment. And sometimes that's clay, sometimes that's roots from a plant, and things get stuck in that snowball. How can you separate all these layers of the snowball where it's now become this gigantic force and you don't know even what's inside? You have to first let it melt, become nothing, and rebuild that from the ashes again, in order for it to be like fully just light or just snow. And like it's very difficult because it's almost like you have to, what is that thing with the holes that you wash rice in?
A sieve.
A sieve. You have to sift through all of that extra dirt and things that are just inside of you.
Yeah.
And I feel like with the soul, it's like the vessel has made contact and it has like damages to it. But my priority is to make sure that the soul does not pick up on the residue of what my vessel has experienced, because then that's the problem begins when those outside things become a part of who you are on the inside. Okay, heartbreak happened to me, but that is not gonna harden my heart.
Yeah.
And I feel like the reason why I went on a healing journey is because first and foremost, I love my soul. And I owe it to my soul to make sure that those experiences do not make the man.
Yeah. Heartbreak happened to you. It does not mean your heart is broken.
My heart was broken, but it was not gonna harden my heart. I was no longer, like, for example, let's say I went through a really bad experience with my ex, right? And imagine if I remember right off the bat there were other guys who were interested in me, and I saw the way that I am with them, and I wanted to take out what this guy had done to me on these guys. And I was like, "Oh my god, I've become so evil. Like I almost want to hurt them. I want to even get into physical altercation at times with people." And it's because I was so hurt. And I told my therapist when I first started my healing journey, I said, I want a clean slate of paper to write a new love story on. And I wasn't going to get that if I didn't sieve through the snowball.
I also think another metaphor, and people can actually literally try doing this at home, is if you fill a glass up with water, put a bunch of dirt in it. These are all your negative beliefs, all the trauma, all the things that has happened to you in your life. And then this is the way I like to think of healing. You pour back into yourself. You keep pouring water, and eventually all that dirt is going to come to the top, and you're going to be left with a clear glass of water. And that's why you have to give back to yourself first. And that's how you clear that glass. That's how you sift through all the dirt and all of the negative experiences and the bad things that have happened to you. You have to pour back into yourself.
That, and then you have to maintain that clear glass of water.
Yeah.
That to me is the harder part than even the initial journey, because healing has become a popular thing, but then how do we maintain it? And that to me is immunity. That takes spiritual immunity, where the ocean is rising and falling, and the things that are going outside will no longer affect the tides that are within you. So let's do a goodbye, and then next episode I think we're gonna focus on tools that we can give people for healing, how healing is, how to maintain it, and what spiritual healing is to me.
Yeah, I think let's get into the science and the soul of healing next episode. So I'll do like a little bit of the science behind it. You do the soul, and we give people some active tips.
Yeah, cute.
Okay, so as always, we would love to end with a question. What are some of the things you've actively been trying to heal from? And what are the tools that you enjoy using or things you want us to discuss on the next episode? As always, it is not about having the perfect answer, but it is about reaching, knowing, and remembering that what we seek is also seeking us.